Welcome back, Penn, Ohio family. I am pleased to be joined again today by Mr. Skip Palinkas from Belden PPC. Skip, thanks for making the time to come back because there were things to say that we didn't get a chance to cover in the first one. But just to recap, kids, keep your end faces clean because cooties. And uh, the thing that I walked away from, I think that was the most aha moment was the conduit and the installation of your microduct or conduit and the impact that that can have based on the shape of your microduct and the amount of pull force that that then puts on whatever you're pulling through it. So what we didn't get to though, we spent a lot of time around the MST and fiber connectorization and the care and management of the drop in the duct. But we didn't actually get to like the house, the cable management in the NID or the OP box, and then the routing ultimately to the CPE. So I think that's where we're going to pick up today, right?
Yep.
All right. So again, thanks for being a good partner to the Penn Ohio chapter YouTube channel. And let's jump into it and say where we picked up where we left off at the side of the house with
Okay.
a nice cleaned fiber end face and a properly installed microduct and fiber drop.
That's it. There it is. It's like magic.
It is like magic. And for those of us that are joining us for the first time, don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We put out updates regularly, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, with new learning content every Wednesday. So don't forget to hit that notification bell so you'll know when we release new material. And that's all the news that isn't.
Sweet. And so I know it is worth repeating to going through a little bit of the microduct routing for continuity of this piece. I just think it dovetails well into the next piece when we get into the NIDs and things like that. And so, for the outline, I want to go back over that microduct installation considerations. And then I want to talk about the fiber cable pulling through that microduct or whatever the medium of choice is, 3/4 inch conduit, what have you. How to attach the fiber cable and the ducts to side premise walls. We have a feature that, a shameless plug, that I think is unique to us, but helps to solve some issues that we see with standard U clips, particularly when we're fiber cabling. Then we'll get into the NID enclosure, proper assembly, and how to make sure that you're using the components and features correctly. And then if we have time, we'll delve once again into the end face, importance of the end face cleanliness when you're making the final connection. And we can do that live in a couple of different things if there's time.
And with all of the necessary precautions in the event that there's actually light on the fiber.
Yes.
You know, what that always reminds me of, for those of us that are a certain age, every Christmas, there's a movie called The Christmas Story with Ralphie. You'll shoot your eye out.
Yeah,
so
it's true. I mean, it's kind of scary that those manual microscopes exist, because not only are you have that risk of shining, burning your retina out, but you're magnifying it at the same time. And there's no automation, there's no isolation, and it's a very dangerous tool.
You'll shoot your eye out.
You will. So the other part of this, why can't I move this? Let's see, there we go. So some of the typical tools that you would need, your attachment tools, whether it's a Phillips or a hex driver, or drill bit for routing the micro cable into the premise, if that's how that's going to be done. And then the ring cutters for both the 3mm micro cable as well as the 10mm microduct itself. The all important bad name, click until
Multi-click
clean.
cleaner.
It could be one, it could be none, but it could be 4 times. I've seen it. The point is this is a very bad name. It's click until you pass the test. Needle nose pliers, and then what I didn't have the last time was the tool that's used to peel off the tone wire that avoids the need of the dangerous utility knife.
And actually, so for the Comcasters in the audience, the CIFA numbers are conveniently listed on
Yep.
this particular slide. That was the other thing that I thought was interesting that I didn't realize about Belden's drop fiber cable is that has, in the event that it is in a duct without a tone wire, that the fiber cable itself actually has a metal conductor, so you could locate using an inductive clamp and not direct connect to the tone wire on the duct.
Yep.
So that was also informative.
Yeah, I mean, because we've seen it like I think our microduct 10 millimeter being nice and small and very robust and ruggedized makes it easy for handling, right? Much smaller than 3/4 inch or even higher conduit things. But in the event that a contractor or business partner has already laid out 3/4 inch, typically those don't have tone wire in it, right? So
Right.
I think it was driven home for us. If we're going to introduce a cable, we got to make sure that we can locate the actual fiber drop cable itself, and we can clearly see that in some cases you'll have conduit or other medium that doesn't have a built-in tone wire, so you'll always be able to find it with this method. Having the tone wire on our microduct's a little bit redundant, but anyway, that's just a standard product. So this simple tool that we have, let's see. Shoot. Sorry
Is
about
it
the
not
music.
playing the audio? I
Yeah,
can't hear the audio if there is one.
good.
So quick question on that tool. Is that a push or a push pull?
You can do both.
You can do both. Okay.
Yeah. And then there's a ring cutter tool that if you want to cut off the excess, you can just score the duct and it just snaps off. But there's also, we've seen that in that same principle, you can use an RG11 strip tool for cutting off. As long as it doesn't have a positive stop on it, it'll do the same purpose. It's perfect for 10 millimeter.
Yeah.
So you don't need to get that separate tool if you don't need to, if you've got one of those other Ripley scoring or prep tools for 11 cable. Yeah, so a much safer process than the utility knife, but in a pinch, if you have to, you can. And the other thing about this, if you're going to couple to it, that stripping tool really does a nice job on not leaving a jagged web. If you're going to use a utility knife, it cuts it very, very evenly across the diameter of that duct.
Yeah. Yeah, because the duct joiners, they're kind of like those shark bite like plumbing fittings, right?
It's exactly what they are, Mike.
Okay. I was actually doing some plumbing work at my son's house this weekend, helping him remodel his house. So
Yeah.
I had another aha moment when we were joining some water ducts.
Okay.
So in a pinch, you could go to the hardware store and buy some shark bite plumbing connectors and join together these microducts.
You could. I don't know. I don't know if they size them up appropriately to like for a 10 millimeter or not, but you might. They might have it. I'm not sure. And
Well,
so
we'll
now
leave
we're
that
gonna.
one to our audience to leave us some comments in the video and let us know whether that works or not.
Okay, I like that. So this starts getting into, and again, it's a little bit of redundancy from the last one that we did, but it's important to talk about it. And then it also starts to lend itself into the different methodologies of burying the actual microduct itself. And so when we're doing this, we want to make sure that we leave a sufficient amount of the microduct at either end. one at the nap where the HFOC is going to be installed, and at the other end where you're going to locate the NID. You want to make sure that you have ample amount of material to make sure that when you go up to the NID in the case of the side of the house, that you don't leave yourself short. I've seen a number of cases where the microduct is going up the side of the house and it's literally like 4 inches away from the entry of the NID, and it's, it's okay, but you leave yourself exposed, and why not carry it all the way up through to that NID and make sure it has proper mounting and security to the NID.
All right, acronym alert, or maybe it's an initialism without Ron Rannick here to tell me which one it is. HFOC, hardened fiber optic connector at the NAP, network
Correct.
access point.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And so it's an SC connector that's basically ruggedized to keep out moisture. So there's a waterproof connection that's made between the NAP and that connection. But underneath the hood of the O-rings and the ceilings, it's an SC APC connector. We could talk about that a little bit later too.
Okay, just teeing you up for later, Skip.
All right. Why is this not cycling, Mike?
I don't know. Technology. So measure twice, cut once. And, the old saying, I've cut it twice and it's still too short. So make sure you leave yourself extra room at both ends. Yes, this is the slide. This was the aha moment for me. Because anybody that's ever tried to pull anything through a conduit or a duct know what a miserable experience that can be.
Yep.
And this is slightly counterintuitive, where you would think that that nice long curve would make for the easiest pull. But then when you really decompose that and say, well, if you think about the path of the cable inside of the duct, it's all about the surface tension of where those two things come together. I spent some time with my high school physics class after our last show and really thought about this one. And that nice long curved arc seems great, except that fiber is going to ride up against the inside of that curve for the entire length and have a much higher surface area of tension across the entirety of that pipe.
Yep.
And pull harder than it should, as opposed to that nice 90-degree, sweep with two straight angles or two straight segments would only have a minimal amount of surface tension on the inside of that 90 right there. And then the rest of it should be a straight shot with very little resistance.
And I'll agree with you, Mike. When we first got into it, and I thought the same thing. We want a nice, if we're going from the ped over to this location, I think the best opportunity is just a gradual sweep all the way around. But we've tested it over and over again, and there's clearly a significant difference in pull force versus sweeps versus straight, because you're winding up with this for the majority of the length that you're dealing with. And so you're only dealing with a small portion of resistance when you go to pull that hits that corner, and it's nothing compared to something like this. Nothing compared to it.
Yeah, that's great to know. So it's also one of those things like, why the hell did it take me 30 years to figure this out?
Yeah. Same.
I don't know. Always learning. That's the great thing about this business, is there's always something new to learn.
It is. There is. And I can't say enough about our ability to be out in the field with technicians and having that partnership that allows us to be out there and not only test it out in the field, but test it on our own grounds. That's where, you can come up with a really good idea, design, whatever. But at the end of the day, the techs give you the greatest amount of feedback. It tells you what's good, what's not.
Yeah, they're not bashful about telling us what's not.
No. And part of this exercise is, so if you're dealing with a premise location that, maybe you got 100 foot that you need to bury, and it doesn't make sense for the business partners or whoever's running the equipment to drag it off the the trailer and set it up and fire it up and all that stuff. If it's 100 feet, we've typically seen these homemade, what we call affectionately call Whompers, that are just, I mean, they must weigh close to 100 pounds, but it's very effortless when you want to go ahead and hand trench something in. It's a short distance. It makes way more sense than dragging the equipment out.
Yeah.
um,
Those saw cutters are pretty spectacular.
yeah. Initially, when we started doing our own experimentation on our own property, which on the right view, this is actually our little test site over at East Malloy. I couldn't find one of these things because they're handmade, most of them. And so I had to fabricate my own Whomper and made a couple different variations, which was a very fun treat.
All right, so we're not going to critique your welds because
That's
they're
not
better.
mine. That's not my Whopper.
Okay. Okay.
This one's mine.
All right. We will make the public service announcement that you should still call in your locates because to your point, those
Yeah.
Whompers are pretty sharp.
Yep.
And when you put a good foot into them, they will cut whatever's under there, whether it be sprinkler or low voltage electrical lines or whatever. So
Yeah.
make sure you get your locates done before you start
Even
whomping.
even for this test, this test site that we own next to our warehouse property, we had to go through that same thing, calling it in. And it was just amazing. There was like 8 different utilities that, I mean, they were quick. It was pretty interesting to see. It was my first exposure to it, but there was mainline gas lines going through it, you name it, but they all marked it all off and whatnot. Because you just want to make sure that you know where you're planting this stuff.
That's right. So public service announcement, kids, call before you dig.
Yep. And so that's pretty much, why is this not cycling?
Teams has been exceptionally difficult lately. So I'm going to go with that.
Let me just escape real quick.
You try your arrow keys?
I'm trying everything. I'm trying enter, arrow. I can't even hit escape to minimize it. Let me,
All right, so we are locked up.
Should I stop sharing and share again?
Yeah, give that a go.
All right. Share this window. Said share this window. Share. All right.
And we're back.
Sorry about that.
Not
And
you.
so after if you've got something a little bit longer distance and it's approximately 100 foot or less, you typically pull out the Whopper and do a hand dig. But we have seen used 2 different types of equipment, plows or trenchers, whatever you want to call them. And this is the first one that basically has the plow blade here, and it has a piece of cable or chain on it that goes to this pull sock, a stainless steel pull sock that will grab the microduct to the equipment. And that spool stays stationary. You can't see it, but it's right about here. It stays at the side of the house. And the intent is we're going to pull it from the house all the way down a 600-foot driveway to the nap location where we're going to make the final connection. Now, even from the business partners' own, after talking to them about this, and you pull this right from the get-go for the full length of 600 feet, you can imagine that the amount of resistance that you're going to create against this cable across that length as it gets buried into the ground is ginormous.
Yeah.
Not to mention that, to me, it almost seems like a pull to destruction test, because whether it's the 10 millimeter microduct, 3/4 inch or higher conduit, the larger diameter, the more resistance gets built up. And,
Yeah.
you know, they've constantly would say like, yeah, we'll pull till it breaks and then have to start all over again or couple it together or whatever they do. And the other thing I really don't like about this is that this end of the microduct and it's sealed off with electrical tape is going to be pulled the entire distance through the ground. And we got lucky because it didn't shove in too much of the soil into the end face of that. But I got to believe that, you know, if they're not diligent on making sure that end is sealed up, you're just going to drive a lot of material into the duct, possibly clogging it up, requiring it to be cleaned out before you can even pull the fiber cable.
So I don't know how prevalent this is, but I mean, obviously that's one way to do it, right? But to your
Yeah,
point, it's basically a tensile strength test of your microduct.
it is.
And it may have started as 10 millimeter, but by the time they get done pulling that thing through the soil, it may be something less than 10 millimeter, um, just due to the nature of the deformation of anything under tensile strength, right?
Right,
So,
right.
there are other ways to do it. Obviously, you talked about the hand trenching with the Whomper, but there are other vibratory plows, right, where it places the duct into
Yes.
the slit right at the base of the plow head.
Yep.
And so I got to imagine that that's maybe a more common way to do it, or into an open trench, during new construction, if that's the option.
Yep.
So this is a way to do it, but
Not a
probably
preferred
not
way.
the recommended method of burying microduct.
No, because I mean, if you're to your point about, you know, stretching out the 10 millimeter when it gets under stress, what am I doing? I'm actually reducing the inside diameter. And when I go to pull the
Yeah.
fiber cable through there, it's going to be a hell of a lot more difficult than I would if I had my dimensions intact, right?
Yeah, it would make it a little more difficult to couple too. If you were pulling it like from the nap to the house, by the time you pulled it up out of the ground, it may be deformed and may not fit the coupler at all, quite frankly. If it's been, pulled to a smaller inside and outside diameter,
Yep.
then the to your point, it'll make it a heck of a lot harder to get the fiber drop through it, but
Yep.
then also introduce some potential problems in coupling.
Yep.
Okay, so not recommended.
Nope.
And if you do see that your microduct is slightly undersized, it maybe that's the way they buried it.
Yep. And it's noticeable. I mean, if the force is on it, you can see like the stretch marks of the actual microduct itself.
Oh, so we have a video. Okay.
Yeah, that's a quick one. And then so there's another video that's going to run on your left view that shows the process of actually being from the start point of the side of the house being dragged through. And when I start the video, I apologize, but about, I don't know, 3 seconds into it, I'm going to blow a dog whistle to make your head turn to the right to be able to continue watching it. So there's the spool, and we're going to go 600 feet in this method.
This is like watching a slow speed train wreck. So I got to imagine for the first, handful of feet, probably not too bad.
No, but as you go in distance, you know,
Yeah.
we're going to go 600 feet down this driveway, and there's roots involved and all kinds of obstructions that over distance, that amount of resistance against the microduct just increases like tremendously. So again, not the preferred piece of equipment to be putting in. I don't care if it's microduct or even conduit. I just don't think it's appropriate for this application.
Yeah.
This is more of the preferred method of piece of
Yeah.
equipment where the spool is contained on the equipment itself. And as it plows through the ground and opens it up, it actually feeds it through. So there's no force or stress on the microduct or any medium that you're putting into the ground.
Yeah, much preferred method. That vibratory plow, it just places it into the bottom of the seam that it cuts into the soil.
Yeah, and it actually tamps it closed at the same time. This little plate underneath it, it opens it up, puts it in there, and then tamps it down.
That is a nice machine. Wonder if I
Yep.
could borrow one of those for the weekend.
I'm already starting to lobby my girlfriend that I want one just for the sake of having it because it's cool and
It is very cool.
it's completely remote controlled. Let me see if I can play this one.
Really?
Yeah, he's just got a little
Oh,
toggle and he's following it. And he can change the location or whatever, the route. It's a
oh,
very
look at
nice.
that.
Yeah.
That's a good time right there.
Yeah, it
I could
is.
bury all kinds of stuff in my yard
I
with that.
know. Just for the sake of burying it, I would. I don't know about you,
Heck yeah, man.
but it is far less intrusive than that previous equipment. And I don't think like from our conversations with business partners that I think the vast majority have both. And I don't think we're getting that much pushback on not using the previous, but using something to this effect, which is good.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely the preferred method. Plus it doesn't leave a terrible mess in the yard the way,
No.
some of the old Ditch Witch trenchers or even, like a backhoe to expose a whole trench. Now, the other nice thing about this too is if the ground is relatively level, once you have your depth set, to your point earlier about the waves and the changes in sort of amplitude of the duct,
Yep.
it should remain a nice, consistent, straight, level path to minimize the pull force resistance as you're pulling the fiber through the duct.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, much preferred. If you do find one of these, you know, let me borrow it for the weekend. If you can talk your girlfriend into buying one, I would replace my in-ground dog fence probably once a month just because.
They are popular. I've seen this used a couple times from a couple different business partners, but very nice piece of equipment. And they're not, they're small enough to where to your point earlier about they really don't chew up the yard. They don't, and you can get it, if you're running it close to a fence line, you can run it pretty close without,
Yeah,
it's just a nice piece of equipment.
yeah. For cable nerds, that looks like a good time.
Yeah, it is. Okay.
All right, so we know which method we prefer.
Yep. And now I want to go over like two different methods of pulling the fiber cable through the microduct once it's laid in place. And the first one is a very easy one and straightforward, and that is, if we can get this to work. So it's a simple pull sock, very small, made out of nylon that will fit over the top of the the mini flex fiber cable. And so when it comes with the end melted. And so we want to open that up just by cutting it off. And then we'll go ahead and install that over the ballistics end of the fiber cable. And you just hold the one end, get a little bit of a balloon going and let it go. And then it just keeps extending itself over the cable via, the length of the sock. And at the end of the sock, there's a loop where you can use the pull string that's included with the microduct to attach to it.
Well, that's convenient. Are these reusable or are these one and done? Does it
No, they're
come with every
reusable.
kit?
They're reusable. And what happens, Mike, is that the it'll fray, and then as the fraying continues, you need to like cut it off clean so that you can begin again. This part I'm talking about, you want to make sure that that loop doubles back into it. And so it increases the diameter over here. You don't want to run the ballistic end past that, which is possible. And then what that does is it increases the diameter of the cable and the assembly of the sock and the cable, trying to pull it through the duct, which will make things harder.
So if you're going to reuse this, do you recommend when you're done and you take the pull sock off that you remelt the end so that it doesn't defray and get shorter unnecessarily while it's bouncing around in your truck?
You can. We've done things like keep the end melted and actually, come up from the melted end like um, I don't know, quarter inch, half inch, and then actually gone at it through the side, which helps to maintain it. But I don't like that it increases potentially the diameter of the assembly. I like going right over the top of it and keeping it uniform versus like a right angle entry point, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. It's all about managing the resistance of the pull force through the duct.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Right. So
now
there's
we've got the
that.
pull sock on.
And there's another important point is that in all of these cases, like with the pull sock, there is absolutely no need for any kind of electrical tape. I mean, it's based on other mediums out there. Electrical tape is the de facto attachment means out there, but in all of these scenarios, it's absolutely not necessary. And in fact, it'll work as a detriment because electrical tape doesn't really, I mean, if you wrap it several times, it does well, but it's that end piece that always likes to peel back. And if you can imagine, if you get any amount of that end piece peeling back and rubbing against the sticky side, rubbing against the, inside diameter of the microduct, it does not make for a pleasant pull. And it's just
Yeah,
not
and
needed.
yeah, worst case scenario is that it unravels as you're pulling the cable through the duct and you abandon a piece of tape now in the middle of your duct somewhere.
Right.
And that's just not going to be a good time. So, okay, public service announcement, electrical tape is not necessary.
It's not.
Don't do it.
It's not. And so that's one method. The other method it is you can use the pull string itself. And look, this took me a little bit to get used to as far as how to do this clove hitch knot process. But once I got used to it, it's like riding a bike. It's like anything else. But again, if you don't have a sock available, don't use tape. Figure out this. And we created this animation that seems to work well. So you want the end of the ballistic about an inch away from the entry point of the microduct. And then we're going to create 4 different clove hitch knots that are assembled like this. So this is my first one. As I cinch it up, it creates a taut point against the cable itself. And I'm going to repeat that 3 or 4 times, distributing across the cable. And once again, when I'm done with this knot process, no tape is required because the more force that you pull against that cable, the tauter that those knots get.
All right. So, does this come with a Boy Scout knot tying badge?
It should.
I think it should.
You should be entered into the Navy immediately.
I actually have used this process in the head end, lashing up cables because it is a nice, clean, low
It is.
profile kind of knot that distributes the tension across a longer segment of the cable. I actually use it in my barn in the winter too when I'm lashing up like my extension cords for the heated buckets
Yep.
with baler twine to hold my extension cords in place.
The other
So,
nice when you're done pulling the end through there, all you do is you grab the last knot and you pull back on it because you're releasing the tension off and it just all slides off.
yeah.
And then you don't have to worry about messing around with trying to undo the knots. It just slides right off. And again,
So you have that set back a little ways from the ballistic end. I think what was the distance? At least an inch.
yeah, I mean, it's approximate. We've done it like an inch all the way up to like, for that matter, 6 inches really. And what we typically do, like when we're getting ready to pull, we'll go ahead and insert that end into it, an inch or two, so you don't butt up against the side of the opening. You got at least a starting position. Once the string starts pulling in, it's already in the diameter of the microduct and it just pulls right along.
Yeah, and that tension is distributed across 4 different points
Yep.
on the cable itself.
Yep.
So yeah, cool. Okay.
Yep.
Learn something else today.
Yep. And again, really, I mean, don't use tape.